This one is David Briggs and Alice Maud Buxton. She is from Eastport.
It amazes me how big these are, and nowadays they get one about the size of a postcard.
Yeah, nice. They knew how to do it.
Yeah.
But there's on this table, stuff over there, you'll say for over there, like spread things out, I guess.
So for the sake of our Zoom friends, we'll ask each person to come up and stand against the wall so you can be on the camera. Who's next?
I'll go next.
All
I
right.
want to get over it.
Yeah, yeah. Hello. Hello, everyone. Oh, so what I brought was a bunch, not everything I had, not all that I had, but a bunch of old Christmas cards. I'll put them all out, over there maybe so we can have you look at them. There's some of, just really old. Well, I think most of these are from I think the late 40s, and early 1951s. I don't know, some of them come from different places. I think a lot of them came from the Bartletts. So anyways, I'll put them all out so you guys can see them there. Some of them are just so pretty and unique. With, just unusual things like that's a clipper ship on it. Isn't that cute? And so it just has a lot of old Christmas cards, and I'll want to
Put it right in front of the camera and it shows up bigger on the TV screen. Yeah.
they can see it too. Yeah. So here I'll do some of them, have envelopes, but the interesting ones. So let's see what I got was very interesting. Okay, so when I was going through them all, I said I'm going to pick out some of these that actually have people from Eliot, or names that you'd recognize. And we have a nice card here. And inside, it's just as pretty inside, and it is from Helen Sullivan's grandparents. It says right on it, Rose and John Staples on it. So that was interesting there. And then I picked out a few that may have some other thing, written something personal from Eliot. So here's another old one. And it says a Merry Christmas on it. And inside it says, Dear Elizabeth, which pretty sure it was Elizabeth Bartlett. We are sending you a piece of homespun linen, which belonged either to Aunt Sally or her mother, our great-grandmother, Sally Raitt. So heartfelt greetings to all in the Betsy Green, because they lived in the Betsy Green down on Old Road, which is called the Betsy Green. Our Christmas Day with love, Annie Raitt. Annie Raitt lived at the old Raitt homestead, which is right at the corner where Brixham Road comes out onto Goodwin. So that's another one from close by, somebody from Eliot. And there's another pretty card. And then inside it says, Dear Annie, which I'm pretty sure it was probably Annie Raitt. It is near Christmas, I am thinking of all of my old friends in Eliot. Someday I hope to come down to see you all. I signed Christmas 1945 on that one. What else we got here? This is from to Annie from All the Frost. So another one from some local family. And what do we got here? Oh. This one here from 1945, Ralph Bartlett. That one. And then this one here had another one from Ralph Bartlett, and he wrote inside. And his handwriting is very unique. If you see his handwriting, you'll never forget it because it's the same same on everything. It says a Merry Christmas to Jean and Ed. Today we are buried in snow. It brings back memories of early days in Eliot, when on Christmas Eve, you used to meet me at the Eliot Depot with old Bob upon my arrival from Boston, Ralph, 1948. So that was those were kind of unique in people that lived in Eliot. So put those aside. And another thing that I came across, some cards when back in 2015, you remember, does anyone, I think everybody was here, remember when the lady came and talked to us about the Bartlett Papers, and she brought us this big 3-ring binder with all these letters that she went through. She was a Bartlett descendant, and she and the gentleman had gotten together just by accident, and she said she was doing genealogy on Bartlett's, and he said, well, you know, he had bought he bought and ran the Griffin store in Newmarket for many years, and he had a crate. He says the Bartlett family papers were found in a badly burned wooden crate on the 3rd story of a barn located in the property of Griffin Hardware. It has survived an early 20th century fire that nearly destroyed the barn along with the hardware store and 14-room luxury apartments. So he had a box of all these letters, and she just happened to be trying to find out about and learning about her Bartlett descendants. And so she took those letters and put them in a binder, and she transcribed them, which is very hard to do because you can't read them. But the interesting part, it says basically the last person that ran the store basically his name was James Bartlett Griffin, and he was over the years, he had the precious documents were from those part lovely preserved, stored, and passed down from generation to generation of Bartlett family members, ending with Judge James Bartlett Griffin. They were the last known family custodian. Of course, this gentleman had them because he had bought the store from them. But anyways, while I was going through all my old things, here I found a greeting card, and inside it's signed from Mr. and Mrs. James Griffin Bartlett Griffin, sorry. So anyways, found that one. And then this other beautiful one, the same gentleman had sent this other one, which is really quite lovely. So it kind of goes full circle when you have these things that appear that, you know, do have a lot to do with Eliot. And then another thing I found, which was very interesting, this also was a wedding invitation. The Mr. and Mrs. John Griffin, which was his brother, I think, request the honor of your presence, the marriage of their daughter Caroline to Dr. Clean, so-and-so on in 1915 from Newmarket, because once again, it's from Newmarket. And found this little card that came with basically as a calendar inside from 1949, and it's signed the 2 people that get married in 1915. I guess you call it Cleon, C-L-E-O-N. Is that how you say it? Say Leon is Cleon, yeah. Cleon and Caroline. So anyways, the card was, so this is 45, they were married in 15, so they made it that far. We know that much. So anyways, those are my little cards. I'll stick them over there, and anybody wants to paw through them, they can see them. Okay.
Thank you.
Yep.
Awesome. And where did we think these came from? Did they just come into our archives, or are these in your family?
This is, well, I haven't put them in the archives yet, but I went through boxes of letters.
These are
Bartlett letters that my sister had.
Okay.
And so I just like cards. I like the old cards.
Yeah.
They're nice. So, and I got stack more at home, but you won't look at them all. Oh, anyways, I just brought those.
All right, thanks. Who's next?
Unaccustomed as I am to being on television. Oh,
I don't have to act, Jack.
not,
Oh, yes.
not bad for an old guy. I heard her, Julie's mentioning about 1950, a long time ago. Gee, I remember that well. This is a little book. It's called Upfront by Bill Mulder. And it was, And it was published directly for 1945, right after the end of the war. And Malden was a photographer, artist, and reporter who followed a number of divisions in the European theater of the war for quite a long time, about, I think, 3 years he was over there. But he bounced from different divisions. The 45th Infantry Division was his, the one that this book is based on. And the book has good memories for me because I'm particularly interested in European history and World War II history. And this was signed by my grandfather, who some of you are old enough to remember, and I don't see too many who are. Except, yeah. And my grandfather had a sporting goods store in Portsmouth for a long time. And, in fact, I was in there today just to see what they had done to it. Changed. It's a spa. Yeah. But the humor in the book is fantastic. And it's all legitimate stuff that he heard. I probably created some of it. But here's a good example. There's two very crusty looking soldiers sitting in a mud pile. And one is saying to the other, "You'll get over it, Joe. Once I was going to write a book exposing the army after the war myself." They had a lot of complaints, but very, very humorous. And I'll leave it on the table and you can grab a quick look. And that's like cartoons, but it's very authentic, written by the guy who saw it.
Thank you. All right, who's next?
I suppose I'll have to follow him.
Yeah.
Mine is a little more serious, I guess. Here, I'll show you the. This is an etching on a brass plate. And it was given to a friend of my mother's, she was a very elderly woman, my mother's friend. Her name was Beulah Tuttle. And they lived in Jaffrey, New Hampshire, which is where I was born and raised. And she was dispersing her things because she had this huge Victorian house and was divesting things. She gave my mother a lot of things. Anyway, the brass plaque on the back side of it says, "Given to me by Bill," who she told my mother was a former beau, June 1st, 1905, at the barn raising party. Beulah Tuttle. Anyway, so it was her beau that did the etching, and it's quite nice. I have two of them. One's on a plate, a different kind of etching, and this one I had to polish it up after I got home. Anyway, feel free to take a look.
All right, thank you. Next. Anybody?
Excellent.
Okay. I brought a Third Hill Farm milk bottle with the original top on it. And I don't know where it came from, but I have several of them at home from different farms around Eliot or Kittery, wherever. So that. I have a framed picture of my grandfather's wool farm that he had.
Did you say wool?
He raised sheep and he had blankets of 100% wool.
Where was the blankets made?
I don't know. They're not guaranteed 100% virgin wool. Made for J.W. Staples, which was my grandfather. And he raised sheep, and I remember going over there and watching him shear the sheep.
Do you have any more? Has any of those wool blankets survived this?
I don't have any.
Yeah, I was gonna say the material.
No, probably not.
Just, you know, especially with the wool, probably got to off the sheet.
Yeah. Yeah. And then I also brought a picture of, my cousins and I lived across the street from my grandparents. And this is us many, many years ago. They lived to be in their late 90s, both of them. So, I mean, we were very fortunate because we could go every day and see what my grandmother had cooked and whatever, and eat with him. And it was just a really nice time.
Which one's you?
Which one's me?
Yep,
In the middle.
one in the middle.
My other cousins live in Florida and New York. Then I brought a picture of what the backside of my hill that I live on used to look like. And I don't know the name of the man who was on that hill who raised cattle.
You don't know who the man is, you say?
No,
Was your stone, that beautiful stone wall that you have on the side of your house in the back? Was it
Yes.
there then?
yes.
Is it visible in the picture?
Look at it. And this picture is taken on the very top of Great Hill, which is was across the street from where I live right now. Oops. And it was very, very high.
I don't think it was there. I think it was on the side.
Okay. But it's now gone because they had it's no longer there. They dug it all out.
Do you know what year that picture was taken, you think?
Uh,
I've seen it so many times and
I know it.
it is.
Well, I remember going way up to the top of the hill because my husband always would say, that would be a good place to build a house up here. Beautiful. I mean, you could look out and see the houses, shoals and all kinds of places. So, yeah. And this is another picture of in the back of my house looking down over. You can see where Irving's farm was, where Helen Gorson lives. All over there. But we can't see too much there.
Yeah, it's a little tricky. Those are pretty.
I'll put these over with everybody else.
Very cool. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Who's next?
Next.
All right.
Speaker.
I know.
I see
Here,
that.
I'm gonna, hold on.
All right. I can show it to him in a minute.
I thought it would show.
So
There it
anyway,
goes.
I brought this article that I found in my mother's paperwork. And she and my father grew up in New Bedford. And they came here because when they got married in 1939, my father is the youngest of 7 sisters. And my mother thought that it would be a good idea not to live in New Bedford area. So they moved up here and my father got a job at the Navy Yard. But anyway, in 1937, my mother loved sewing, and her first job up here in the area was at Montgomery Wards in Portsmouth, teaching people how to use the new sewing machines. And but I found this article about sewing classes. It was a WPA project, which is the Works Progress Administration under the New Deal, where they made different things out going. So this was to teach people how to sew and how to remodel their clothing. And my mother was the assistant. And so this was just showing them having made dresses. And they learned how to sew, and they were doing a lot with repurposing clothing to make it look better. And it says that these classes will be open all summer. And since November 1937, average weekly attendance has not been below 100. Well, that was a big thing to sew. Now, my mother, when she wanted me to learn how to sew, my mother's a perfectionist. I am not. And when she would make the seams and things like that, she would pin every little bit and then sew over them and pull them out. And to me, I just took this straight seam and sewed down the line, and it was straight enough as far as I was concerned. But so I, made a lot of my kids' clothing in the beginning, but I thought it was kind of interesting to, because I've been at a couple of books recently, and the one I'm reading right now is something about giraffes, which I never would have picked up, and it's in the book club. And it is talking about taking the giraffes. It's a nonfiction. It's fictional history. What do you want to call it? Historical fiction. And they traveling with giraffes that got caught in the hurricane of 38. And my mother talks about the hurricane of 38, which is why I know they got married in 39, because my father had got all his sisters home safely. And then she called because she couldn't get home. And they didn't think it was a good idea that he go out and find her and get her home, but he did. So that's what made me think about it. So and then that's why I went looking for this paper, because it sort of came with the same time frame that was going on. And then the other thing I want to share is Marion Raitt gave me this popcorn. Oh, she thought I ought to have it. She liked to give me the different things. In fact, I hadn't figured out how to open it till I was playing around with it. And I'm thinking, oh, it's still got pearls in it. So I got to do something. But one of the reasons I brought it up here is this is a good way. I know you read the newsletter, and you know that Roseanne and I are working on 2 new displays. A display at the middle school, not the middle school, the Great Works School, Jerry Burnell School, for the 4th and 5th graders is going to be on Then and Now. And what we're looking for is items that the kids would be familiar with now and what they looked like years ago. And I've got the old iron, and I have like the handle with 3 different sizes. And I've got my mother's old typewriter. And then I took some things from the schoolhouse, like the old lunch tin. And then I had the stenographer, how do you say it?
Stenographer.
Yes, thank you, stenographer, so that they can see. And that was from 1930 something, I think, that's someone Dixon, one of the Dixons, not Rita. So I wanted you to all be thinking about things that you might let me borrow, so we can put it in that display. Because we moved the blacksmith one up there for the kids, and they love having the things to look at. So this would be a good one to do for them for this next, so that'll be up for January and February. And then we're also going to be doing at the Eliot Elementary School, the stores, the original stores that were in town early on. So things like Helen showed with the milk. We're looking for anyone who has any. I have an old Hood milk jug, which since I was a Hood, I really kind of like that one. And then I also have one that has chestnut in it. So I found that in the yard. So anyone who's got any of those types of things, we're going to put them up for our store display. And and we used to have the old tins of different types of food, how the food came. So if anybody has any of that type of stuff that you would let us borrow, that one's going to be probably March, April, May, that type of time of the year. So if you got those hiding around, let me know.
Terrific. Thank you. All right, anybody else? Is that it? Roseanne, do you have anything?
Or I'll show one thing before Roseanne does, because she does have something. One quick thing, my share is a picture, because I was afraid if I brought it in, it wouldn't weather the weather today. But it's one of the oldest things actually in my house. Let me make sure I can get there. I just did this. Where did I put it, Roseanne? There it goes. Let's see if you can. You can't really see it too well, can you? This is a Christmas cactus. So this is from my great aunt. And I thought of this, I was trying to think, rack my brain what I could bring in. I probably have some other things, but recently on Facebook, one of my friends shared her Christmas cactus, which is all in bloom. And then she started sharing her story about her Christmas cactus. And before I knew it, all these other people were messaging, well, my great aunt, my Christmas cactus is 85 years old. And I said, well, so is mine. There must have been 6 people with Christmas cactuses that they all inherited from their ancestors, from their maternal, most of them, right? And this was my great aunt's, and she inherited it from her mother-in-law, or a piece thereof. This is a piece of hers. Hers was triple the size. And I was fortunate to get a piece of this, and it hasn't bloomed of late, but anyway, so it's pretty special. And the fact that I'm able to not kill it is even more special. But so there's a story there, I think, about these plants and that being passed down. And I wished I knew who the great aunt or her mother-in-law, and that she was married into the Dearborn family, and they are connected to the Exeter Dearborns, but they're from the northern, from the Lewiston area original, so they came from Exeter and then I think up to Lewiston. So this plant is connected to the Dearborns in that way, shape or form. So anyway, so that's one of my shares. And then I did get also not quite as big for my grandmother, who is a Bartlett. I haven't made the connection yet to the Eliot Bartletts because she's a Portland Bartlett. And then one of the other favorite things that's always been on our family, my mother and her mother always had these beautiful violets, and they're hard for me to maintain. So right now this is, hanging in there. But so I just thought I'd share some of the plants that have been handed down in our family that are pretty special. So I'd love to hear. Well, I think I've lost a few along the way. Yeah.
That's right. Her sister had given all of their family had the fairy lily that they shared around. And I have part of that now, and every year I'm going to put it in the cellar like it says. I have the directions about how to keep it going, and then every spring I bring it out, and it's been blooming. Yeah.
Do you?
And Roseanne has it too. So yeah, so we all got a piece of it. Mine too. And oh my God, I'm so afraid it's not done. Yeah, still. That's right. I'm still that way.
Okay. Roseanne, can you see your screen?
I'm telling you what I did.
Yeah, I can see my screen. I see your violet.
Yeah, okay, that was not what I.
Beautiful. I wish I had my great aunt's violets. She had them all in the living room, all different colors. They were beautiful. I kill violets.
But Roseanne still had a reason to do that.
Let's see.
That's how I and then something make more ball. I don't care, touch it, all I do is down something. Okay, as long as I'm happy, and then I say, okay, I just want to see a couple of flowers come.
Can you see that, Roseanne?
I can, do
All right, let me
you
start.
want, can I give a little intro before you
It does.
start? Okay. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Before I start, I just want to thank Tracy for all that she does for this society. I don't think people realize she's been a great help to me in getting a better communication email system going. She's helped with the website, and she's always there for technical things. Of course, without her, I don't know if we'd have these Zoom programs either, because she's always, you know, able to work out all the kinks and get us going. And I'd also like to thank her. She's the one that suggested that I do this, that I share this. Back in, now I can't remember the year, was it 2006? When the Paul family farm was put on the National Register. I did a little booklet for our family, and I gave one to the Historical Society as well on the Paul family. And since then, when COVID hit, I was trying to figure out what I could do with my family's files. I have probably 40 3-ring binders full of materials. They might be letters and pictures and clippings and cards. Plus I have boxes of things too. But I had used a lot of those pictures when I produced a little booklet on the Paul family for the family. And I was trying to get in contact with historical societies and organizations, Maine Historical, for example, the Athenaeum, and they just weren't responding. I guess COVID shut everybody down, and that was about the end of that. So I've got all this material, and I realized I have a lot of pictures, and they're duplicate pictures. And I thought to myself, I bet I can come up with four albums and put those pictures in it with the story of the family. So I enhanced the family, adding more information, and I made 4 scrapbooks, 2 for my side of the family and 2 for my brothers, because we're the only children of my parents. So so this is the culmination of that, and Tracy wanted me to share it at some point and show people, and I realized if I don't do it now, I won't have them because they're going as Christmas presents for my family members. So
each of the 4 books that I made contains the same story. However, the pictures, either they're original or they're copies if I wanted people to have some of the same pictures. So it starts out with a little introduction about why I did it, and then it goes into the Paul family of Eliot, Maine. And this is a picture of my grandfather's family. So you have the story of Daniel Paul arriving in America. It might have some envelopes. They're little sidebars that don't always correspond to the time period, but are things found in family books and things. There's a 4-leaf clover and some materials. You can see some of the other things that I found in the family's collection. There might be tax receipts, different cards given to people, pictures of the family. Little things that I found lying around to make out the scrapbook, especially when I didn't have a lot of material from the 1700s that I could rely upon. It has newer pictures showing where the site of the home is today and the cemetery. The different branches of the family. Information on deeds. Pictures of family members. This is Hugh Paul, the builder of the family home that's on the National Register, the Hugh Paul Family Farm, and the site of his parents' cemetery. Then I talk about the house itself that was built in 1804. And his family, his children. And then my great-grandfather, Moses Paul, Hugh's son, with some very old pictures. And then Elbridge, who was my great-grandfather's son, who served in the 27th Maine, along with a lot of information on his time there, provided by Stephen Dow, who has done a wonderful job in chronicling the history of the 27th Maine and the soldiers. The family of Alta Paul, Jeremiah Paul's daughter, who came to live with my great-grandfather. Jeremiah was his brother. She came to live with us as a family. And then her story and where she lived, and that's her home in where my mother lives now, and her brother, Horace. And that's my great-grandfather, Moses Newbury Paul, and Ida. Tells the story of her family being raised on Brixham Road. And her siblings, 2 of whom were adopted by other people after her mother died very young, leaving quite a huge household of kids. There's something my great-grandmother Ida wrote when she was in school. And then Moses Newbury Paul served in the 9th New Hampshire Regiment. And I have the history of that. He was wounded at the Battle of South Mountain, so I included information on where he was taken after he was wounded and how he progressed with his healing. Then the history of Moses Paul's sisters, Edna and Dorcas, and their family. Dorcas married Oscar Taylor, and their son Paul was a very well-known physician in Kittery. Glare tends to be a little bit too much. So that's the story of the Taylor family. And my Aunt Gladys, who was a teacher. And then my grandfather Moses, who married Gertrude Shapley, the daughter of James Howard, and Florence Etta Westcott. Her sister Mary, growing up, and their genealogy, so that we'd have some of their genealogy. My grandfather. Worked at the shipyard, and who also gave the name to Little Dicky Dam up at the Bartletts on Brixham Road. That's his family. He built his own steam-powered boat, which he tried out at Gunnison's Pond in Kittery. Another picture of the family. A little bit about the house, the animals, and the farm. My childhood. I go into my mother and her life, her graduation from Berwick Academy, fixing up the house. My brother's father. My mother's marriage to my father and his family, and some of the information that we know about him. And then my brother, with some pictures of our childhood and his marriage. Some memorabilia from my family, story of my family. This book is for one of my children. This has a lot more pictures of our family. My brother's photo album has more pictures of his family. And we always leave room for each of our families to put their own photos. And then here are some quick rugs done by my great aunt Gladys. And it ends with the genealogy of our family.